Welcome to the 2025 NFL season preview for my yet to be named betting channel. I am Vegas Dave, the real Vegas Dave, and I'm going to get on here and I'm going to show you how to win some money like I do every year by betting on teams that I choose before the season even starts. So ideally, after we're done here, you'll have 4 teams you can bet on in the future for the season. That'll win you some money when the Super Bowl comes around, whether it be NFC or AFC Championship or even the winner of the entire Super Bowl. So far in the last 3 seasons, I have had an outstanding record. One of my 4 teams preseason has been in the final game of the bet that I've placed, meaning that all my bets have come up for a hedge, or every season I've come up for a hedge bet, which is a bet that you put in to ensure that no matter what, you win something. The only way you can have a hedge is if, let's say you bet a Super Bowl bet, and that is if the team you bet on makes it to the Super Bowl. Then you would bet on the other side to ensure that either you win your preseason bet or you come out on top with the day of bet. Yeah, so this is just a preview. I'm getting to know talking out loud and being confident to gotten some notes. By the end of the season, I want to provide you with some solid futures that you can be excited about. And they're all going to be long shots. So that's another part of my philosophy, is that I'm not going to take there might be some chalk this year. There's a lot of teams that are due for solid performance in the playoffs, and they've earned a shot at the title, and somebody's going to get left out as always. So beware, there might be a couple more chalk plays, but usually I'm looking for something over 10-1 payout. So you can really get excited about the bet when the end of the year comes, whether it be you put $20 on each play or $100 on each play before the season starts. Usually it comes down to a pretty exciting play. Each year I've had a bet to win about $500 or $600 for the AFC or NFC Championship, and it's always been a great time. So I'm going to be periodically talking to my producer in my ear. So hopefully that doesn't weird you out. I think I'm talking to myself, even though I am by myself and there is no producer in my ear. Also, you might notice that my eyes might divert occasionally. I'm not reading a teleprompter. This is unscripted TV. I mean live, coming at you. Blooper reels don't exist. No edits. Raw, uncut, coming at you live. But I may look over occasionally because some of my facts are brought to you by CBS Sports, who I have on in the background, telling me what's up with the Micah Parsons sitch, and the McLaurin sitch, and the formerly Cooks sitch, and the Hendricks sitch in Cincinnati. Why listen to me? What the fuck am I gonna tell you that you don't already know? Well, that's a good point. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of talking heads, and I am joining the party as another person with information. And to be honest, all I'm doing is gathering information that is already out there. But I feel that there's a certain level to a breakdown where there's a surface level to it, and then you can dig a little deeper, and a lot of people don't know where to look. And I feel like I have some insight as to what components of a team make them more successful against each other, and hopefully that will show in some of my picks. I have to get started with the futures bets, which are still a work in progress, but as of right now, on my notes, my number 1 preseason bet for a team to, and this is what I would say, would be to sort of outdo expectations, would be the Green Bay Packers, and that is to win the Super Bowl. I got them at 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's great. 20-1 is great. Put what you want on it. They're a team that I believe is one of those teams that sort of do. They've been putting on a pretty good show for a couple of years now, and aside from the Vikings sort of exceeding expectations last year with Sam Darnold, that probably threw a wrench in things for the Packers a little bit. And I think that this year, I don't think that that's going to be the case with the Vikings. They might have a pretty solid defense, but I think that their offense is going to be a little bit underwhelming, especially with a rookie quarterback that has had 0 snaps, or a second-year quarterback that has 0 snaps, and just doesn't quite just look the part yet, in my opinion. But that's just eye test stuff that obviously like everybody can give their opinion on, and you probably found other opinions that are opposite of what I'm saying from people who are at camp and things like that. So I'm going off of instinct and experience of my own. So always take things, with a grain of salt. But I believe that the Packers are going to be a lot more successful in the NFC North. I don't think that Detroit can hang on to this momentum forever. They seem to be a team that scores a lot of points and edges other teams out, and that's a hard way to play long-term and consistently win. You definitely need to be able to get a stop. Some of the most successful scoring teams that lack defense, like trying to put one in the Super Bowl or put one deep in a season, and each time you kind of bring up some team you remember from the past, you're going to probably be able to cite their defense as well. Hutchinson's back. He's a big-time player of the year candidate, so, you can't really, you can't ever write a team off that has a guy like a Watt or a Garrett or a Hutchinson or a Bosa, because they are actual real game changers, game breakers. In one play they can strip sack touchdown, and I've seen it happen where they can take over a game that's a 13-10 final score. So, this is just a commentary and opinion, but first play of the year of a team that's going to be there in the end of the year. I would like to take the Packers to win the NFC and be in the Super Bowl, because that's where I like to usually focus my future bets, is on NFC and AFC champions. But because they're basically a 10-1 to win the NFC, I decided to stretch my odds for a better payout at 20-1. I think for a bet for NFC champion Packers is like at 10-1, lock it in. They should be there, especially if they get any kind of home field advantage in that tundra in the playoffs, which, again, if they win their division, that shouldn't be a problem. The more I talk about it, the more I like them, but you'll find that that's how it happens with every team. And then when you jump over, so that's a long shot future Super Bowl bet and a good NFC championship future. A great NFC championship future. You want to be hedging on NFC Sunday, AFC Sunday, Conference Championship Sunday. Bet on the Packers to be in the NFC Championship, and you'll be fading them against, who knows. They say Tampa, they say maybe Atlanta, the Rams apparently have you haven't even seen Stafford out of the hospital, but they're already saying they're a team that can make a run in the playoffs. I think that one's more of a stretch. You're going to get a comeback here from the Niners, that. And then on top of it, you got your underdogs that, obviously the Eagles, the favorites. But you got your underdogs that nobody's talking about, Seattle, Dallas. I think the Commanders are going to still be an underdog this year in a lot of situations. So NFC is strong, it always is, but when you're throwing a dart at a board and you look at body of work, you look at their coach, LaFleur. You want to be winning with winners in Wisconsin, you go with LaFleur. So I'm just going to jump across so I don't get bogged down with information, because, just going through that NFC just kind of just threw me for a loop, because there's just so many teams that are going to be a problem. The Eagles were the last one I mentioned because you know I'm not gonna bet on a Super Bowl back-to-back Super Bowl team. You know I'm gonna fade that all year. I'm sorry. I don't like this dynasty stuff. No thank you, sir. So when I go to the AFC, like, oh, the Chiefs had a down year. No, they didn't. They worked their ass off for 6 months, 8 months. They went all the way to the end, and they're tired. They have to be tired. They can't keep doing this forever. No one does. So let's go with fading the Chiefs as well to have an actual down year where they lose maybe in the second round of the playoffs, or they don't have a bye and they struggle in the wild card game. Come on, like there's parity out there. There's too many athletes out there that are capable. That one Andy Reid can just manipulate 32 cities. No. To just jump things off, the way I see the league playing out this season has 4 divisions that I believe are what I would describe as like locks, or their favorites that are in those divisions, I believe will come out as the winners of those divisions. There are 4 divisions that I believe have more parity, which I did look up, but it's equal competition, or the existence of competition that is more so level or less predictable. So the 4 divisions that I don't see much parity in as far as the number 1 versus the rest of the division are the AFC South, where I think Houston should have a good go of it this season. So these are possible futures as well. If you were keeping track, these aren't stuff I'm like putting my reputation on, but these are teams that as the season goes on and I continue to tell you what I'm betting on, you'll go back and go, okay, he likes Houston. Okay, he thinks that they're gonna kind of run the AFC South. So obviously he's putting them, in this parlay or whatever. Next division, NFC East. And by the way, I apologize if you think it's weird for me to wear a hat, but I have to throw down Vegas pride for my preview and first show of the year, and I think that these are probably going to be a bit better quality of my shows in the past. So here we go, continuing on. The NFC East, for me, is a Philly division, and I think that's pretty hard to debate. I think my main argument is that I think Washington caught a lot of people off guard. A lot of rookie quarterbacks can do that and have been known to do that, and then they go through something called the sophomore slump. It doesn't happen to everybody, but if you're going to play trends like I do and odds of someone taking a step back after their sensational rookie year are like, anyway, Stroud did it. Everybody's done it. So if they proceed like every other player or team in the past has, and by the way, I picked Washington was my bet last season to be in the NFC Championship and win it at 50. What was it? 50-1. Being that it was so long, I didn't put a ton on it. I only had to put like 15 on it, but that left me on that NFC Championship game being able to bet on the Eagles heavy and win money. So I digress. Here we go. So the other team in that division that could make some noise is obviously the unknown Dallas. Dallas is generally competitive every year. They always are in this situation, so this is not new, and it should not be like some incredible distraction for them, because again, it's happened every single season that I can remember. Down to like, I'm pretty sure like Zach Martin, one of their like linemen, was having issues like 5 seasons ago, and then we had the Dak saga, and I think we had the Lamb saga last year, and we had it goes all the Ezekiel Elliott, and we had it's an undeniable fact that every season they experience this. So for us to constantly concern ourselves with their doings and comings and goings and shit, it's just like it's like it's like one of those that just, it's like sneaking out and just stinks. Maybe you can get away with it, but like it stinks. All right, here we go. Continuing on. All right, last team in that division, which I get to flag with my handy dandy question mark asterisk, because the Giants are a question mark. They are gonna have what I consider to be a spicy defense. I mean, it's unrealized potential at this point, and that's a big part of my process because that's how you get beat, right? You'll have all these chalk plays. You'll say, how can Kansas City lose? How can this team lose? It's because we're not factoring in the potential of the guys on the other side that, yeah, sure, they might not have played well or might not be playing well in this moment, but they have the potential. Bryce Young has the potential. Cam Ward has the potential to like just ball out, and just will be like, oh shit. Because that's the thing about parity, right? Is that I believe that it exists in this league, and only the players can prove that, and sometimes they do. And it's a lot easier for like a defensive scheme to prove parity than it is for like one player. As you can see, other than my belief that Philadelphia is going to be the number one team in that division, I'm able to see wins for any one of those teams versus each other. Malik Neighbors also, by the way, just a quick last Giants note, is a freak. So at the end of every touchdown, he's the first guy all preseason to run onto the field, and he's obviously like known for his chest bumps. But this dude is jumping like head hit the rim in the air to chest bump his teammates. And now I'm like, if I'm franchise ownership, I'm like, okay, guy, like, let's not do that anymore, because I feel like he's going to jump over somebody and he's going to flip on accident and he's going to land all fucked up and it's going to be bad. But this dude is a freak athlete. So as a deep ball threat for someone with like an unlimited range of cannon that you can really like rely on to stretch a defense, open up a run, allow you to compete in games. So watch out, Dallas, Washington, New York. I think all those teams are more or less, a little bit more equal than we thought. Washington, they picked up Von Miller, but they're still rated, I think, 32nd in edge rushing. Next one is going to be the AFC East. And as everybody knows, you're going to go Bills on this all the way. I think that Miami every year has the potential to be one of those teams that like just actually does what they're supposed to and cannot be beat. Like, that is a possibility. But I think I said earlier about teams that in the history of the NFL, can you find a team that doesn't have like a strong defense and makes it all the way? And like, you can like think about some of these, like Miami teams have been great offenses. Are they going to be able to put it together on D? We're going to find out. Like, Cincinnati is going to come up in a bit, and they're another team that, has had the explosive offense without the D. Buffalo should run away with the division. Run away with the division. I anticipate the games being played in Buffalo as Buffalo wins, and then maybe, I don't know where they slide. They're gonna have, I think, and you're gonna not like my futures, but the AFC, I can't see anybody taking out Buffalo or Baltimore in that final game in the NFC Championship. So that's just where I stand on that, and I'm trying to find my dog and my sleeper and my great pick for everybody that's going to be the one pick that nobody saw coming, but it's hard sometimes, and this year's one of those years where they put in so many hours and haven't gotten anything out of it that they still have that hunger as grown men in those facilities for as long as they are. I don't see them coming up short of their goal this time. So anyways, on to NFC North, which is my final division that has less parity at the top. This one was a bit more questionable because it's always so competitive. I think it's in general it's the most competitive division in football. With the NFC North is pretty competitive as well. Last year especially, but NFC East is always competitive. Blah 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 blah. I digress. Baltimore, I believe, will come out on top. They might even slip a couple times, like a couple drops. Like you could lose in Cincy, you could lose in Pittsburgh. I mean, I'm not gonna say it, but the Browns should be the bottom of the division. They shouldn't lose there. But Cincy and Pittsburgh could definitely lose in Cleveland. That division underneath Baltimore, everything's a little bit closer. Cincinnati is supposed to have a really big up year, which is exciting. They're probably 6th or 7th ranked favorites in the AFC, maybe 4th. But they're more realistic for me to get a future on in the AFC, and they have a lot of upside. Similar to like Miami, I feel they're going to be 1 play away, 2 plays away when it comes down to it in the playoffs from continuing on. So that is my division leaders, or my divisions without parity. So those are my divisions: Houston, Philly, Buffalo, Baltimore. Those are my 4 favorites to win divisions. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to get into. I'm a big numbers guy. I can keep a lot of data and information in here, and it doesn't like go anywhere without my, it's not up to me. It stays. So I choose to keep some of this here, and I think it's going to do me some good when I'm betting long term in the season. Down to the NFC South, I think everybody's kind of talking about this division being like, kind of like, whoa, watch out, except for New Orleans, who is my auto fade number 1 auto fade team. You see New Orleans on the schedule, you can pretty much bet against them. Not necessarily the spread, but like in your pick'em pools and your money line pick'em pool. Atlanta's one of my favorite teams in the NFC South because they just have so much unrealized potential. So we all know about their favorite stars, the Bijan, and like, Kyle Pitts, he can be so good. They sucked with Cousins last year. Cousins is a game manager, not a game breaker. I'm really excited about Penix in Atlanta because I think that they've been missing the quarterback of that city since Michael Vick left. And I think that Penix can be that guy who can't even go on the street. So I'm excited to see what he has to say about that. I know he's young and it's a lot to put on him, but Atlanta's going to love him if he delivers wins. And everybody pretty much seems to think that this is a year where they can do that. So I'm excited for them to do that. As far as defensively goes, I don't think that they're going to have a strong defense. I think that they're going to be a team that scores a lot of points, and you will see that in my bets and my choices during the season. I find them to be a strong offensive team and not a strong defensive team, so you're going to see me bet them a lot of overs, and you're going to see me, not necessarily think that they might not be my winners every time, because a lot of their games are going to come down to whoever has the ball last, and those are hard games to bet on. So we'll carry on. Tampa Bay is the team that's going to sneak up and bite me because people are talking about them being a Super Bowl contender, and I am not. But that doesn't mean that they won't be. So I probably just need to do more research. They have a pretty great linebacking core. They've got a ton of returning starters on offense and defense. Their receiver room just keeps proving itself year in, year out. I say this about every team, and I say this about everybody. Father Time, right? They say he's undefeated. It's like at some point there might be a fall off for them, but until it happens, you kind of have to keep going. Godwin and Evans, and then they drafted Emeka Egbuka or something. And man, this kid is gonna be a flash star in the league because he's one of those Ohio State guys, and pedigree is super important for me when I'm looking at potential of Egbuka. Pedigree is great when I'm looking at potential of teams and players. So I'm always like, where did they go to college? Who has the most second stringers that went to a top 5 program? That team's going to be successful. Okay, so that's that John Gruden method. So Bucky Irving's going to have a great year this year on offense. But I can go player for player with Atlanta, and that's why I like Atlanta. as far as offense goes. I can go talent for talent. And then on defense, they have game breakers like Vita Vea and Winfield Jr. On the Tampa Bay, but they're not ranked high on defense. They are ranked very low on defense as far as last year goes and projections. So they're basically the same makeup as Atlanta, and that's why I think Atlanta is underrated, because everyone loves Tampa. So I'm excited to see those two throw down in the NFC South. Those games are going to be a ton of fun, and there's going to be a lot of scoring. I think that's my week 1 matchup, actually, is those two teams facing off, and I've got the over. So just a sneak peek. One that I'm actually getting more confident about the more I do my research. So, those things happen as well. So we'll see if I stick with the see if I stick with the Cardinals and the Rams. I think I'll stick with the Rams, but see if I stick with the Cardinals. Carolina, next up. Unrealized potential is all you can just keep preaching about this team. Last year, they ended the year strong, and if they start the year in any fashion like that, they're going to surprise teams, and they could carry that forward through the year. At the beginning of the season, I liked them to win the division as a long shot bet, and I love these dogs. It was only 3.5 to 1. Okay, so I got the Packers at 20 to 1. Carolina Panthers are 3.5 to 1 to win their division. So that means that, basically, the odds makers completely agree with me that there is incredible parity in this division. You get plus odds on anybody you pick. That's not easy. So they're supposed to be much improved just based on those odds alone. So I don't even have to really do a ton of research to back myself up on that one. The odds makers did it for me, especially coming off of their, coming off of their really poor season 2 years ago, like really bad, and then last year was gonna be really bad, and then they turned it around sort of at the end, gave them some hope. Finally, New Orleans, no quarterback, lost their sort of like big name safety to retirement. They just don't look like they have an identity, and I've been a part of that team. The Raiders were that team where they had like a couple stars, and then like Kevin O'Connell, like no quarterback at all, like no one to throw the ball, and it was just gross. Just not a product you want to like. Alvin Kamara is not the running back that can carry that kind of load. He's not Mark Ingram. He's not Deuce Bennett, or Deuce McAllister. Jesus, Deuce Bennett. Deuce McAllister. He's not gonna just 30 carries a game guy. So yeah, New Orleans. How are they going to score? They're not. So fade them. AFC West, they still have the Chiefs as the favorite to win it. I'm not an idiot, but Broncos are hot on their tail. Chargers, with the O-line they started camp with, were hot on their tail. Now I don't know what they're going to do because they lost 2 of their starting offensive linemen. So that's a big problem for them. I don't know how they're going to overcome that. I have to see how they play to start the season. I think they're a team that might be top heavy a little bit, where if you lose one of their main guys, you might see a major drop off on the next. Bo Nix is supposed to have his sophomore slump. Fortunately, he has Sean Payton as his coach, so either it's going to be, the slump could result in Payton falling out of love with the kid, but I think he's proven enough in 1 year to have a bit of a leash and to be allowed to have a bit of a slump and come out successful. He is a journeyman from college. He was underrated in the draft where he fell to, in my opinion. I had him like a lot higher, and I was super surprised when I think the Vikings passed up on him to get McCarthy, which was like, what? So, not to be a hater, but like, we'll see what McCarthy ends up doing. Teams are going to be able to scout him now. So one of the major things I remember from last year was just watching Bo Nix just glide down the field with no interruption. And I think there will be at least a spy or somebody will be able to key that and stop him from just having like 60 rushing yards, every other game or whatever over two big plays, which are major game-changing plays, like lead to both scoring drives, which is the difference in the game. So these are major things. So next up, final team, auto fade the Raiders. They improved, but to what extent? Like, they don't have a defense. They're gonna try to run the ball. This kid's a rookie. Like, you can't, and he's 5'8". He's not 6 feet tall. He's not 6'2". He's not Derrick Henry. I don't know how His body's going to handle this increased competition. I know that he handled college like a boss, and he dominated. I can give him credit for that. He's the man. But if you're going to put the ball in his hand, I need to see what happens. If he's going to lead the league in rushing as a rookie, that'll like no, okay. But if he does it, like then I'll bow on camera to him. And obviously, everyone's going to see this viral. This is going to go super viral. So obviously, he'll see it. They got the man Brock Bowers. Geno Smith to Brock Bowers is going to be sick. Their pass game is going to be slightly improved from last year because their trash receiving core did not have a quarterback. So now their trash receiving core is going to have a quarterback. Jacoby Myers not a number one in my opinion, but he's our number one in Vegas. So that's the deal. Yeah, so NFC West right off the bat. This one is you just get a better ability to bet these futures because they are better odds. But the Niners had what we all consider a down year last year for their standard. They've been like crazy successful if you look at their numbers over the last decade, and to the point where you wonder because it's at some point because they did seem to spend a lot of money to make this happen. It wasn't all just like, it's not like the Patriots method, just developing underused talent or taking guys that are bad boys and turning them into, or getting them the focus they need to do that amazing job that they're great at. The Niners have been more, they have purchased the right guys, to get the job done. Even to the point where they've had to, sell guys off that they, from Trey Lance to Garoppolo to Kaepernick, they've had quarterbacks that they just let go by the wayside and still keep coming out with a great product. So that is an argument in favor of them recovering this year because, wow, they just do it no matter what. They just seem to figure it out and get it done. They did not last year. How could they do that again? That would be really unprecedented. However, big believer in bucking the trend. So if they've been a dynasty in the NFC, and the dynasty is in like they've been in the NFC Championship 6 out of 10 years or something crazy like that. It's like it's like who else, can say that? Is it time for them to are these contracts running into dead ends? Are these purchase players that they got kind of falling off? Are these long-term contracts now playing out to the end, and now you're they're not necessarily this major impact player that you paid all that money to, whether it be the O-line or what have you. They did get a second running back to back up McCaffrey, who is notoriously injury prone. Can you count on him to finish out a season? If you're gonna buck the trend like me, you believe that there's a chance that this division has a bit more parity. So, except the lowest team in this division, just throwing it out there, in my opinion, is the Cardinals, which, there you go. I mean, there's people out there that say the Cardinals are due for a good year. They say, oh, that defense. Okay. I'm a little less convinced on Carolina or on Arizona. I will say that 100%. So, the Rams. There's all kinds of talk about McVay being a play calling genius. I don't think that the variable has been considered. I don't think that there's much of a chance that Matt Stafford plays 18 games. I mean, and if he only has to play 15 for them to get in, or he only, in the 2 of those 15 he only does a half or whatever, okay, the perfect season to lead the playoffs, and he gets to rest the last 2 weeks and everything's Gucci, or he takes a bye week halfway through the season or whatever, or what have you, that you figure out to get him to the end of the road. Okay. They could start the season off on fire. He could be well rested and ready to go. Or Garoppolo could come in and not miss a beat because we got a McVay play calling genius, and they say that the defense is so unstoppable and so great. Believe it when I see it, team. So, and this is not going to look good for my futures bets because both the Rams and the Cardinals are on my list of teams to bet, or on my favorite bets, because they're playing 2 of the teams that are that are ranked absolutely the lowest in the league as far as offense, defense, potential projections last year, next year, just trash teams, okay? But I'm looking at these guys and I'm going, man, both these teams, the Cardinals and the Rams, have to travel across the country to the East Coast time zone to play these games. And I'm really starting to talk myself out of, some of my bets. So anyway, so this is kind of how the process goes a little bit. Like, I think that they are in a prove it mode while most people think that they're in a like a maintain mode. Like, okay, did it last year, do the same thing again. I don't think it works like that. I think they're gonna have to they're gonna have to start from a new place, and the floor for them with Stafford not even having this seat, potentially not even knowing if he's gonna play or not, the floor is a lot lower than people are giving credit for them. So watch out. Hate when that happens. But yeah, so these are both money line picks anyways. I'll explain that too. But next up, we got the Seahawks, who at first glance, you go, what's this? Why would you think that they can win games? Sam Darnold, he's just going to go back to the old Sam Darnold old. He doesn't have the star power to be a franchise quarterback. First of all, you're coming off a relatively couple successful shots at a season with Geno Smith, who's on my auto fade squad, the Raiders, this year. You did it with him. Sure, you lost your two receivers, but that's okay. You're bringing a new quarterback, building new chemistry. It shouldn't be that big of a deal that you had to regroup your entire receiver corps. Having said that, though, yeah, last year one of my biggest keys to picking the NFC runner-ups in the Commanders before the season started was that their management and ownership retooled and spent money in the offseason to make them a contender. So they didn't just get the number one quarterback in the draft. They also brought in Eckler. They brought in defensive players. They brought in receivers to bolster their units. So when I looked at what they spent last season, and I'm sorry, I don't know who all they got, but as I watched all offseason, I went, wow, these people are committed to winning now, okay? So when I look at, like, the Niners going and getting Robinson, they're like, yeah, because if we lose McCaffrey, we have to do this, we have to be successful this year. We can't have another down year. We need somebody who's capable. We can't rely on one guy. We have to be a solid group. So when I see stuff like that, I definitely, it perks my ears, but it's a little too late on their end, but not important. So the Seahawks did a lot of retooling. They do have a pretty young offensive line, and their secondary doesn't have a ton of mileage. They're young, but in this division, I think they can be competitive, and I think you should watch out for them because I think they might have a lot of underdog opportunities to win some money later on in the season. Cardinals will have to they're going to have to do something out of character for me to bet on them and to think that they're going to do something for me. Oh, again, so yeah, as far as the future goes, considering this a preview and like how are they going to do overall during the season, not the first week necessarily, but how are they going to do for the whole season? They're going to have to do something that they haven't done in almost a decade for me to change how I feel about their potential, which is middle of the road. I can see, when I think about them, I can see them losing more games than I can see, not like as an overall record, but when I visualize the Cardinals on the field and I see them playing games, I see them losing in the end than more often than I see them winning in the end. Now, whether that's 5 games come down to the last play where they have to win or lose, when I go, and here they go, and Kyler Murray, and he drops back, and he's driving, am I seeing them finish that drive with a game-winning touchdown and the other team not being able to get on the field and come back and win? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. One more time, no, I'm not. So, other than when they play absolutely atrocious competition, I think that they're going to have a hard time reaching expectations because they're really on the hot seat. Finally, NFC North. I think this is the Packers' year, as I said. It's under review, in my opinion, as far as parity goes. I think the Vikings are going to be... Oh, I mean, yeah, they have to. Yeah, duh. So the Vikings were going 14-2 last year. Crazy stat. Super fun for them. Super fun for the city. Can't win that many games this year. There's no way. There's no way. So I don't even think they're going to get the quarterback play that they got last year. I don't think they'll get anything near that this year. So Vikings step back. The Bears are supposedly going to impress everyone, with their new coach and everything. And I don't see it. They say the run game's going to be good. I don't see how. I'm just not a believer in the Bears. I mean, in a lot of this again is not just who you like; it's who you don't like. And I don't know what defense I need to really talk about the Bears to spend much time on them. So back to the Packers, Jordan Love, they got the quarterback, they got Josh Jacobs, a running back I absolutely love. They've got returning defensive starters, they've got returning secondary starters. They had a successful season last year, even with the quarterback injury issues that threw off part of their season. So they've got the coach. I haven't talked much about coaches, but LeFleur is a good coach, and he just hasn't quite done it yet. And again, it's like the world loves parity, the league loves parity. I like parity. Packers like parity because they need some parity if we're going to make it past the Eagles in the playoffs. Next up, the Lions are going to be competitive they're going to be competitive as long as Dan Campbell is a coach there, I think. But I don't know how, but he manages to get the sort of inspired play out of his offenses that most teams rely on from their defenses. Like raw coaches usually are defensive-minded coaches, if that makes sense. So oh man, that team, he gave an impassioned speech and they held him to 10 points. That's more likely than they gave an impassioned speech and they blew him out by 40. In that case, the defense would have to also respond to the speech and shut the team out. So in this case, Dan Campbell is that guy. He rah-rahs his team to victory on offense, even though the defense can't get a stop to save their life. 38-35. I feel like that's a score I'm just consistently seeing with the Lions in almost every game. At some point, it's 38-35. And they need to keep scoring to win, and that's the only thing they can do. And so they do it, and they're great at it, and that's why they are right here on my list of absolutely competitive and make this division more periodic. Give parity, give this division more parity. Because then that also means that they can go out and they can lose to a team like the Vikings. Like maybe the Vikings do have an electric offense that is quarterbacked by this kid McCarthy, and they just are unstoppable, and he can just deliver just threaded passes to his boy Jefferson. And obviously, if he can get it there, Jefferson's going to catch it. That's not the issue. I'm literally worried that he's not going to be able to get it there. Catch radius. How big is this catch radius? I'm sure it's massive. I know it's massive. I'll look it up. It's massive. It's long, but yeah. So can they go in and beat teams like Detroit, who don't play great defense? Sure. Can Chicago maybe even go in and mess with Detroit with their new look? Maybe. I don't know. I don't. Only if their offense can score. I don't see it being their defense shutting down the Lions. So that's the NFC North. Obviously, I'm favored on the Packers. It's my least favorite division that I feel has parity because the Packers are my most favorite team in that one. I'm gonna get into those bottom teams, and then I'm gonna give my AFC and NFC preseason picks. Who's gonna be there? All right. Number one, worst team in the league is New Orleans. They are ranked number 32, like overall potential. They were ranked low last year in most categories. If you see New Orleans if you have New Orleans available to bet against, or if you have the team that's playing them in an elimination league, fade New Orleans. More often than not, you're going to be 80% success rate on that, maybe even 90. What are they going to win? 2-3 games this year with 18 game season? I could see them winning. Going 3-15. I think it's harder to lose more games this year because of how long the season is. But hopefully don't get caught in one of those games. But they're trash, and they should prove it. I don't see Kamara carrying the load, and how are you going to get it to those fast receivers? Chicago I'll skip that. So the Raiders are number 2 on my fade list. They are ranked number 30 preseason overall. So they're right about there where I put them. There's no way they should be able to keep teams from passing on them unless Max Crosby can get a sack every play. So most teams should be able to score on them. They're probably going to play that cover 2 Pete Carroll's famous for, which might give them a little bit of wiggle room, but that usually allows teams to get down the field and be in the red zone, and then eventually teams, they're gonna score some points in the red zone. You keep letting them in, they're gonna score. So if that's how he chooses to coach, I don't know how hands-on he's gonna be with the offense and defense at his age. He might be more of a figurehead. We will see what plays out there, but he's an exciting guy to watch, so I'm sure he's very involved defensively. Cleveland's ranked 31. That's fair. They're pretty easy to fade. Just be careful. They have a pretty good defense occasionally. Like, their defense will show up. Myles Garrett is a game breaker. They're supposed to lose a lot of games, but I could see them keeping their division games very close. So watch out for them against the spread. They just can be a weird team that can keep games close. But I could see them being 31 out of 32 teams. I would put them closer to 28. Bottom 5, 28, 29. But they've got them as the second worst team preseason. Next up, we can throw on there. This is a tough pill to swallow. So I think that Chicago is going to have a bad season. I think that they're a pretty easy fade. But their preseason predictions based on their position groups and their skill sets has Chicago as ranked number 8 overall preseason. So and that's right there with the Packers Lions overall. They've got the Chicago Bears and that just makes that division that much more competitive and kind of encourages my picks. But I don't see them being in the top half of the league in any stats, in any categories, but the talking heads do. So watch out for this one. I got Chicago as an auto fade squad. That could be incorrect. And the next squad that I wrote down preseason was Indy. And this as well as the next team they're going to get the same breakdown. So Tennessee and Indy are my next 2 teams as auto fades. Both teams require a caveat because as an auto fade team, there shouldn't be a caveat, which is why Cleveland was I rank them so much higher because they have game breakers on defense. And Tennessee, they had a top defense last year, number 2 defense overall rated, and that's just something that's incredible because they won 3-4 games. So they went out this year, got the number 1 quarterback in the draft. And the kid's not a freak athlete. He's a journeyman. He's been playing quarterback across the country, proving himself to get to this level because he never got a chance to do it when he was young. So being that he wasn't a big passer in high school, he didn't have the stats to get picked up by anybody. He had to go to Incarnate Word and shine. Like, I mean, the amount that you have to ball out to get that D1 scholarship off of a JUCO or that 1-2A or whatever, Division 2, is incredible. So he did that, proved himself. Washington State, to get taken from a team that now has no conference to an ACC powerhouse is an incredible journey that, you know, 1 or 2 players is able to do each year. He did that, and he proved himself. So when you take Tennessee on as a whole, you can put them in the bottom 5 of the league. But when you take their unrealized potential and you pair it with what they've been good at in the past, this team can be very successful and can really piss you off if you're going to fade them every week. So Tennessee has actually moved sort of into like number 6, 7 in my list of teams, like out of my bottom 5, which are my only teams that I can really auto fade. And the other team that did that with their choice at quarterback is Indianapolis. The Colts going with Daniel Jones makes their receiving core better, which makes Jonathan Taylor more dangerous, which just makes their offense better. And with the defense that they've had in the past, which can be competitive, but then has to be on the field 80% of the game, which is impossible to sustain, they can also really piss you off. And so watch out for them. I guess, like I mentioned in the beginning, the number 1 team, Houston, shouldn't have a problem, but versus Jacksonville, versus, so that's another 10, that'll be against Tennessee. So Indiana and Tennessee, that's going to be a crazy game. I'm not betting that one because that's going to be a coin flip. You might go Tennessee on that if you had to choose. Gun to your head. All right, next teams at the bottom, just rank just for your own metrics. This isn't my rankings. Next teams went Carolina, Jacksonville, Jets. Carolina, Jaguars, and the Jets in that order. I think Carolina can prove themselves. I think that Jacksonville has the same story as Carolina. Both of them have 2 quarterbacks that one is in a contract, like he needs to prove that he's worth the money. The other one needs to prove that he was worth the pick. So they're the same situation. I think that Jacksonville has a lot of high ceiling, but also a very, very low floor. So that's a big swing. You got to watch out for Jacksonville. Could be a lot better than advertised if this guy, Trevor Lawrence, becomes the Trevor Lawrence that he was drafted to be. Jets also. Great D. Watch out. If Justin Fields can maintain the run game and maintain the clock and they can just take clock, you're going to be looking at a lot of 17-14, 21-14, 17-10 fourth quarters. That's my auto fade list. Back to my future bets. Lift off! All right, we're good. Ready for fucking anything. All right. I already gave you the Packers as my long shot Super Bowl winning favorites. Now here we go, AFC, and I'm not going to give you Baltimore, and I'm not going to give you the Bills, because you can go do that on your own. You can go bet them whatever. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to give you my prediction based on my same metric as last year. What franchise went out and said, look, we can afford to spend money because we're going to put a good product out on the field. We're going to win. This isn't going to be... And I'm so excited to share this one, and I know it's going to be kind of a favorite pick, but whatever. I'm so excited to share it because the franchise that chose to spend is also a franchise that I absolutely trust to win. They're not a franchise that's like Detroit. You know, they're not Jacksonville. They're not Carolina. It's the Steelers, guys, okay? Listen, folks, I know you hate that one. I know you hate that pretty pick with Rodgers. Oh, everybody's on that. Listen, they didn't fuck around this offseason, okay? They spent money. They brought players in. They brought in receivers. They brought in defensive players. They brought in the quarterback. They're gonna be a tough team. They're gonna be hanging around in the end. And the best part about this pick is that I finally get to pick with a franchise and a coach and not just rely on just these random guys to shine. Because like I mentioned, every team should have the athletes to be able to beat another team. It's just the NFL, that's what it does. It puts the best athletes on the field, and gives them a place to shine. And if they're put in the right situation, they're gonna blow up. So this is the Steelers, guys. I mean, this isn't just some random franchise spending money in the offseason because they want to win now. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who never do this. They never do it. And they get Cam Hayward signed. Obviously, that's a huge one. They need to do that. They will. They got TJ Watt, an absolute game wrecker, like a possible MVP of the league candidate on defense, because he can have 3 interceptions, 22 sacks, 8 forced fumbles, 9 recoveries, 4 touchdowns. I mean, the guy can have that kind of a year if he stays on the field every game. I mean, he can literally dominate that kind of way. Him along with 2 or 3 other guys in the world. So, shiny and new. I know nobody wants to bet on the shiny favorite pick. Everybody wanted to do it last year with the Jets, or 2 years ago with the Jets, and Rodgers went down game 1. I think that was more of a long shot. They had a lot more. Like, who bets on the Jets to win the Super Bowl? They're not a franchise that makes it happen every year. So, if you're guaranteed 500 with Tomlin and the Steelers, that's all you need to go 500 to win half of your games. All you need is Mike Tomlin and that franchise. Boom. Put money on it that they will be in the playoffs and making a name, or making some noise, and will be a worthwhile AFC Championship bet. They could be facing off against their division rivals, the Ravens or the Bills, in that game, depending on how it stacks up, where you could have the Ravens-Bills playing each other before the championship, and that's happened before. So it's not always about, okay, 1 and 2 are going to face off in the end. The Bills could end up being ranked 3rd when the season comes down to it, and the Ravens won, and then they don't see each other. So you can always count on some crazy randomness to be applied to this. So you never want to focus all the way in on those kind of numbers. So I'm putting money on the Steelers to be there, and I think I can get them over 14-1 odds to be in the AFC Championship game. Now, finally, my NFC team, and I guess if it gets bad, I can always just rest on the Packers, because they will be there. But I love giving you. I guess I can give you a favorite. My most favorite pick. Because you can't, it's like I just feel like I can't go with the Niners, because they're just too much of a favorite. So if we go toss up, I want to give you Atlanta, but NFC South is going to provide probably the best product in the NFC outside of the Packers. So I think that I like Atlanta because they're the longest odds. If I'm telling you as a better, Tampa Bay might be a better bet, but you're going to see that in the payout. If Atlanta gets the best of Tampa in season and gets that better road to the because they could both make the playoffs, that could be the difference. So it could come down to record. It usually does as far as their path in the playoffs. So I know it sounds like I'm backing out of this one. I'm going with Atlanta. I'm throwing money on Atlanta. I love it. I'm so excited about them. I want to bet on Penix to be like the offensive MVP this year. Just as long shots, just because if I'm right, it's just going to be so fun for me to watch. If I'm wrong, I think Tampa is going to be the team that makes me wrong, the most wrong, because let's say they dominate that division. Atlanta doesn't make the playoffs because they get beat up, and Tampa has an easier road. So I like Atlanta. I'm putting money on Atlanta. Watch out for Tampa. In the AFC, I always throw a little money on Miami because they're a team that can show up if they are able to avoid these snow games or whatever, these cold games that they can't seem to win. They're a team that can also, watch out. So there they are. I think you go over the main ones. There is going to be the Packers, Steelers, and Falcons. Wow, Packers, Steelers, Falcons. That's going to be all for the preview. Next time I'll make sure to talk in my real voice. That way I can actually be myself on here. My wife has encouraged me to really, just embrace who I am and stop sort of putting on an act, as it were. I guess that in the end, I just can't stop acting like that American guy, and now I've got to really dig deep and figure out who I am. And hopefully by next week, we'll get a good preview of that when I give you my picks for NFL Week 1. Stay tuned, folks, for Vegas Dave's Picks.